Hey guys, how's everyone doing? This is the Sentinel watching over Geekdom, and welcome back to Sentinel Reviews. I'm doing something different, or I'm going to attempt to do something different. I'm doing a video game review. And, well, I wanted to do this one for a while. I will be reviewing. Hang on, that's gonna show up where I usually put the image. Kingdom Hearts 3. Now, Kingdom Hearts 3 was released in January 2019 for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. And I have no other way to do this. I'm just going to jump right into this. I've never done a video game review before, so please bear with me as I soldier on through this. Now, a little bit of my history with Kingdom Hearts. I have been there since the very beginning. I remember when the first game came out in 2002, and I saw the trailers and I was hooked. And like I said, I've been there since the beginning. And then I started liking the series a little more when I grew up and learned what Final Fantasy was. I'm trying to build up to before doing this game. Again, never reviewed a video game before, so yeah. Anyway, as far as Kingdom Hearts goes, at this point, I have only not played 3 games in the series. Because I didn't have a DS, I haven't played Days, although I really want to. I've seen gameplay videos online, and mission mode looks really fun, and I haven't played Coded. Again, because I haven't had a DS, though I am looking into emulators. Also, I haven't played Union, the mobile game, so there's that. As of right now, Birth by Sleep is my favorite game in the series, but I do think, like everyone else, Kingdom Hearts 2 is the best in the series. So, yeah, like everyone else, I had been waiting for this game to come out, and it seemed upon release the game has been polarizing. It's been fairly divisive. For my own salt, I like the game. Yes, it had issues, but overall, I liked the game a lot. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like I said, and I'm going to continue to stick by this, I do think Kingdom Hearts 3 will be one of the most visually stunning games of 2019. Because they went with the Unreal Engine, they went above and beyond. The game just looks spectacular. Now on to the review aspect. I'm going to divide it into 3 sections, kinda. 2 of them go more hand in hand. I'm going to talk about the gameplay first, then I'm going to talk about the story, and then I'm going to talk about the performances. So, the gameplay. One of the things about the Kingdom Hearts series is the main titles, Kingdom Hearts 1, Kingdom Hearts 2, and Kingdom Hearts 3, the developers knew what they were doing. Like, they listened. So, when the first game came out, people played it, people liked it, but some people would critique, like they'd say, oh, this wouldn't work, oh, this wouldn't work, and the developers with the next game would improve on it. So like Kingdom Hearts 2, they took out what didn't work with Kingdom Hearts 1 and filled it with new content. I'm trying to think specifically about that. Like the shortcuts menu. And I'm going to be ghosting over a lot of these terms, so yeah. Like the shortcuts menu in Kingdom Hearts, when you did a shortcut, you could only equip up to 3 spells at a time. That's basically what the shortcuts were. They were to spells. In Kingdom Hearts 2, you could map one to each button, so instead of 3 spells, you could have up to 4, and you could also do items this time. For another example is in Kingdom Hearts 2, summons were not linked to magic. They had their own gauge, and that you could fill up and deplete independently of using your magic. And then, same thing, Kingdom Hearts 3, they changed the system again. They took out what didn't work and they added new stuff. For example, the shortcuts menu. Now you could have 3 at a time. You could have 3 different shortcuts menu and you could switch between them, essentially giving yourself 16 different combinations of 4 8 12 different combinations of spells, items, and even summons. Yeah, I don't think drives and summons were I don't think you could equip drives and summons to the shortcuts in Kingdom Hearts 2. Although, here's the thing with the gameplay. The gameplay does a lot. It does a lot, and not everything works. You know, some of the things that do work, for example, though, is you can equip 3 different Keyblades at once, and you can freely switch between them in battle. So, because of the form changes, which I'll circle back around to, if there was a specific Keyblade you liked, you could keep it equipped and switch between them as needed or as wanted. As I do this, I'm finding it's really hard to talk about gameplay because everyone has a different gameplay style. Everyone plays games differently. So what I liked and didn't like speaks specifically to my gameplay style, and it may not speak to yours. Another thing I liked is in the past games, whenever you get a new Keyblade, based on its stats and its abilities, you would just equip it and kind of forget about the older ones. A new feature to this game, Kingdom Hearts 3, is the Keyblade Forge. So, basically throughout the game, you could upgrade your Keyblade. And I feel that, like, if you find a Keyblade you like, you could stick with it longer because you could upgrade it. I feel it was a nice touch because... Yeah, again, and I feel that being able to upgrade your Keyblades and keep older ones longer, it does give you some more variety when it comes to equipment. I'm trying to figure out... Oh, form changes. Basically, like I said, in Kingdom Hearts 2, you had this thing called drive forms, and when you activate one, you could change your playstyle. Like, some of them gave you 2 Keyblades, some of them had a strong focus on magic, etc., etc. The form changes basically function as the drive forms for this game, and they were good, but, they were specific to each Keyblade. So, for example, the favorite deputy, one of the Keyblades you get, could turn into a giant hammer, one of them could turn into yo-yos. It's cooler than it sounds. I wish I had gameplay footage to cut over as I speak so I could show what I'm talking about, but I didn't record my gameplay. I did kind of want to live stream this game, but on my work schedule right now, I don't have time to do that. But yeah, no, basically, the drive forms the form changes, the drive forms as they kind of are equipped to specific Keyblades, and different Keyblades do different things. Again, something I like because it allows for a more broad play style. One of the things I didn't like about the combat in this game is I'm totally blanking on the names. Shoot, what were they called? That's gonna drive me nuts. So I will come back to that while I try to think of the names. I guess really the limit commands. Oh yeah, there we go. Now I just remembered, is that one of the things I didn't like about the combat system in this game is that they got rid of reaction commands. Again, in Kingdom Hearts 2, when you were fighting specific enemies, occasionally at the top of the command menu you were using, you would see press triangle. I'm using the PS2, the PlayStation versions of these games, so... Have the remasters come out on Xbox One? If they haven't, and Kingdom Hearts 3 is the only Kingdom Hearts game to come out on Xbox One, that would be a little weird. But anyway, no. Fighting specific enemies, something that would happen occasionally is that you could... A situation would show up at the top of your command menu where you'd press triangle to execute a specific command, and enemies, bosses, this would vary based on who you were fighting. They were basically sort of quick time events. Like, for example, fighting a Dusk, a basic nobody enemy, at specific moments, you could press triangle to do a reversal command. Basically, Sora would spin around out of the way, and it would sort of stun and confuse the nobody, allowing for an opening. Those aren't here, and they're replaced with, I think they're called situation commands. I don't remember. Basically, as you fulfill certain requirements, you can trigger specific moments. Like, when you build up a combo and you use a specific spell, you could press triangle and execute. You could build up to work the strongest form of that spell. Like, Thunder... The Thunder spell, you could build up to use the Thundaza spell, for example. Or you could use Donald's Flare or Meteor spells, or you could launch Goofy at opponents. It's just, it didn't work the way reaction commands worked, is what I'm getting at. And speaking of the situation commands, there is a new one here. And again, this goes back to what I was talking about, the comment about the combat, about them doing too much. When you attack specific foes, fulfill certain requirements in battle, you could summon attractions. And that is exactly as it sounds. You could summon Disneyland theme park attractions to help you in battle. Like, you could summon the pirate ship and launch it at... and swing it at enemies like a pendulum. Or you could summon the carousel and send out shockwaves to enemies. Or the teacups and ram into them. And it's just... This felt unnecessary, if I'm being honest. Like, especially because summons are back in this game, because summons have always been in the main games, Kingdom Hearts and Kingdom Hearts 2. And I just feel like with summons and attractions, you didn't need them both. You could have had one or the other. Also, with one exception, Blaster Blaze, I didn't really use the attractions all that much. I didn't really think they were that beneficial. With the exceptions of the 2 times you have to use the train, because that's mandatory. But yeah, no, the gameplay is very... Before I conclude on the gameplay... This game even brought back elements from the previous side games, like shot locks from Birth by Sleep are back. And one of the things I like is that, again, speaking of that variety, unlike equipping Terra, Aqua, and Ven with a different shot lock, you'd have different shot locks based on which Keyblade you're using. Which, again, just adds to that variety, adds to, creating a specific play style. And I also think it gives the game more, what's the word? I've been using variety a lot, but yeah, because like Birth by Sleep, Terra, Ven, and Aqua, because you could equip shot locks. They might have unique ones specific to their characters, but going throughout the game, you could find a lot of shared ones between them. Wow, I have no idea the point I was trying to make with that. But yeah, another thing brought back from one of the side games is flow motion from Dream Drop Distance. And yeah, that's all I can say. I am not the biggest fan of the flow motion mechanic. I could never get the hang of it, so it's not something I used all that much. But if you liked it, if you utilized it a lot, great. I'm glad you enjoyed it. So that's specifically the combat. It's a very mixed bag, but it's leaning towards positive, because there were a lot of hits, there were a lot of things that worked. There were some improvements from previous games. And now the worlds. One of my friends, on YouTube, he goes by KingdomKeyMaster. Was there a number after that? I don't remember. He usually live streams the Kingdom Hearts games. I'll link him in his I'll link to his channel. One of the things he didn't like was the lack of worlds. Compared to the previous games, which had somewhere around 9 worlds on average, I think there was. I should have researched, but I have an aversion to it. This game only has 7. Technically 8, but that's kind of a thing with me. I never count the 100-acre wood. But I'm okay with that, because the worlds in these games were so massive. Like, you could take one of the worlds from one of the previous games, and you could probably fit it into these worlds 3 times over. That's how big these worlds are. That's how big these maps are. And it's just, they're so broad and expansive. And they're so broad and expansive, and some of them, especially the Caribbean, that creates a lot for you to do. You could explore, find chests, do the occasional mini games. Oh boy, that reminds me of something. And talking about that, I will get back to the worlds themselves and talk about them. Another new mechanic in this game is the gummy phone. In past games, you had the journal. In Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, it was Jiminy's journal, because... Yeah, and one of the things you do is you could read up on the stories to past worlds you visited. You could look up info on enemies you fought. You could see what records you'd accomplished and what records you had to set. You could read secret reports and in-game find. And yeah, in this game, it's been updated to a cell phone. And one of the things you can do is, one of the things they added is lucky emblems and photo missions. Photo missions are exactly as they sound. You press a button, you bring up the gummy phone and the camera. And you can take selfies with it, and that's kind of adorable. But yeah, basically you'd go to a Moogle, and they'd have photo missions for you. It's like, oh, I want a picture of this, I want a picture of this. And finding it and taking the picture would give you new items to synthesize at Moogle shops. Another mechanic I'm just ghosting over real fast. Another one is lucky emblems. Basically, if you've watched a Disney movie or you know anything about Disney, you're probably familiar with the concept of the hidden Mickey. Basically a Mickey Mouse symbol that's sort of hidden in the background as a fun little Easter egg. Well, Kingdom Hearts 3 basically has them hidden throughout the game, and finding them and taking pictures of them unlocks certain perks. Like, you could... Totally blanking again. Like, it would unlock new gear, new accessories to equip and boost your stats. And, it also added to things to do exploring these worlds. Was there anything else with the gummy phone? Nope. At least not that I can remember. So now we will talk about the worlds. Maybe. Wow. I am just not having a good time of it today. There are... I said 7, but now I'm second guessing myself. Twilight Town, Olympus, Toy Box, Caribbean, San Francisco, the Keyblade. There are 9 worlds in this game. 10 if you count the 100-acre wood. And, as I said, they are massive. 7 of them are Disney worlds, based on Disney properties. There is Olympus from Hercules, which, I think with 1 or 2 exceptions, Olympus has been in every Kingdom Hearts game. I'm kind of done with it. But I get why it's there. You know, Hades is a god, he's immortal, so unlike the other Disney worlds where you defeat the villain and it's over, you go to Olympus, and because the villain is immortal, you always have someone to fight. Also in past games, because Olympus and, you know, the Colosseum, the Olympus served as the tournament hub, which, because the tournament was not in this game yet, possibly. I've heard rumors that it might be DLC, but again, rumors, there's nothing confirmed, so we'll wait and see. Olympus felt unnecessary. Some of the other Disney-themed worlds include the Toy Box, based on Toy Story, the Kingdom of Corona, based on Tangled, Monstropolis, based on Monsters, Inc., Arendelle, based on Frozen, the 100-Acre Wood, as I've mentioned, based on Winnie the Pooh, San Francisco, based on Big Hero 6, and what ended up being my favorite, the Caribbean, based on Pirates of the Caribbean, along with 2 original worlds, both from previous games now that I think about it, Twilight Town and the Keyblade Graveyard. Now, the worlds go one of 2 ways, in this game anyway. One of them is repeating the movie verbatim, like basically Sora, Donald, and Goofy are just in the background as the movie happens, which is actually kind of hysterical for one moment in Arendelle. For any of you who played the game, you know what I'm talking about. Or they're following their own story set after the events of the movie, which is also fun. One of the things I didn't like about the previous Disney-themed worlds in the game is that when you go there, the overall plot would stop as you'd play out this world's story. Like, in Kingdom Hearts 2, you'd go to Port Royal, which was the name of the Pirates of the Caribbean world. In this game, they changed it to the Caribbean. You'd go to Port Royal, and you'd just play out the story of Port Royal, which in Kingdom Hearts 2 was Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. And then, yeah, very few times the specific world story and the overarching story would interact or meld together. I didn't have that big an issue with that in this game. It feels like the developers made a much harder effort to link the world-specific story and the overarching story together. And for the most part, while it's a little clunky, I feel it pays off much better. Also, one of the things I like about the worlds is that when you get a world-specific ally, because in the past, depending on which world you go to, you could get a specific ally based on that Disney World helping you, like Jack Sparrow, Jack Skellington, Aladdin, and so on. But you'd always have to swap them out with your party members, so you'd have to swap out Donald or Goofy to be able to use them. And one of the things I like about this game is you don't. So say you go to the Toy Box, the Toy Story world. You'd get Donald and Goofy in your party, but you'd also get Woody and Buzz. And I think doing that in those instances, I think you fight more enemies when you encounter them. I don't know. I don't recall that one, though. I'd have to think about that one. But yeah, I do think having those extra teammates creates larger groups of enemies when you go to fight them. What else was there before I go to the story? I'm trying to figure out what else is there to talk about the gameplay. Oh, there are a couple moments where you do get to play as other characters in the game, like in the series. Like twice you get to play as Riku, and once you get to play as Aqua, and those are fun, but they don't really add that much, I felt. It's just, okay, we're playing as someone else right now. I just remembered. The Gummy Ship. In each of the main games, the Gummy Ship is how you unlock new worlds and visit them. And it's usually the weakest part of the games, as far as gameplay is concerned. But here, in Kingdom Hearts 3, I think the Gummy Ship is the best it's ever been. There's 3 maps of worlds you can go to. One map has a few worlds, the next map has a few worlds, and the last map has the final world. But within each one, the Gummy Ship is open world. And it creates a lot to explore. You don't have to. How do I explain it? How do I explain it? Yeah, it's open world, so you don't have to complete specific objectives. You don't have to go point A to point B. You can just go to the world and unlock it and be done. But you can do the enemy fights if you want. You can do the other missions if you want. It doesn't, it's not going along. It's not a rail shooter like the first two were. Yeah, is there really any more to add to that about the gummy ship? Nope, just open world, and I think of the 3 games, this is my favorite version of the gummy ship. Like, I'd spend just hours just going through gummy space without even realizing I was there. So yeah, in conclusion, the gameplay is kind of a mixed bag. The goods are really, really good, and the bad stuff isn't so much bad. Excuse me. It's just mixed, And like I said, it's hard to comment on because everyone has different play styles, and I can only comment based on my particular play style. So let's go on to the story. And this one caused kind of a bit of a ruckus. Because if you're new to the series, or if you're an outsider looking in, the story is kind of a joke, Everyone says the story is super complicated, it's super difficult, you can't grasp it, and I'm going to stop you right there. I think Super Butterbun said it best in her review. It's not difficult, it's not complicated at all. It's just a lot to take in. And if you've played all the games, and like I said, I only haven't played 3, but 2 of them, Dazed and Coded, I've seen the movie versions on the remaster. So I still had a grasp of the story itself. The only thing that kind of threw me off was the elements they included from Union. Not the epilogue, specifically. I'd seen the first 15 minutes of back cover from the other remaster, which I'm not going to dig out right now. So I at least knew enough to know what was going on with that epilogue. But yeah, when it got to the Union stuff, that's where it kind of lost me a little bit. Like, oh shoot, what was her name? Elrena, or Lumaria, or even Ethamer. But no, yeah, that being said though, I think Kingdom Hearts 3 is the harshest in terms of story. Like, if you jump into this game without having playing any of the previous games, with the lore and the continuity, this game is far more punishing, Again, quoting Super Butterbuns, Kingdom Hearts 3 is a game for fans. This is the game for the people who have stuck with this series for the past 27 years. Oh, I screwed my math up on that one. 17 years. There we go, because again, the first game came out in 2002. And yeah, no, this is the culmination of all the previous game stories. And, speaking of that, I liked the story a lot. It's pretty standard. It's kind of not, when you look at the story on paper, it's not a lot. It's pretty much just Sora and his friends gearing up for the final battle with Master Xehanort. And then the final battle happening. There's not a lot to this story on paper, but it worked well. Having played the games, having been invested in this story, there's a lot of emotional moments that pay off really well, especially towards the ending. And I'm painting the story in broad strokes because I do not want to spoil this story for anyone who has not played the game. And because of that, I don't really think I can talk about the story anymore. So I will conclude with the performances. And yeah, speaking of, I'm going through this series. Haley Joel Osment, yes, the kid from The Sixth Sense. Since the very first game, he has played the lead protagonist Sora. And his performance throughout these games has consistently been the best. Throughout the entire series, the voice performances have been hit and miss, good and bad, but Haley has always been amazing. And even here, his vocal performance is just great, especially given that he's had better writing. Like in Dream Drop Distance, Sora's kind of written to be an idiot, and here it comes across as more naive. It comes across as a little more innocent, which, for one, is far less grating, and two, it works so much better. In fact, I'd say across the board, with some exceptions, Kingdom Hearts 3 has the best vocal performances of the entire series. For example, Jason Doering. Jason Doering plays one of the protagonists, Terra. And in Birth by Sleep, again, my favorite game, his performance was the weakest part of Birth by Sleep. It was so flat and monotone and dull. But here, for what little time he has, he seems to have improved tremendously. David Gallagher is Riku, one of the other protagonists who has been in this series from the beginning. He's okay. Two Riku replicas show up, and if you're familiar with this series and the replicas, you know what I'm talking about. And it seems like he's having more fun voicing them than he is Riku. Like, again, his performance as Riku is a little flat here. It's not bad. It's not bad at all. It's just a little phoned in. But I feel like his performance as the Riku replicas work a lot better. Alison Stoner is good as Kairi. That's really all I can say. I think she first voiced the role in Rechain of Memories. I should have researched. But I'm kind of disappointed that it's not Hayden Panettiere coming back and voicing her. She voiced Kairi in the first two games, and it's just... Yeah, I wish we could have gotten the original trio back. Everyone else has been as amazing as they've been in the last games. Willa Holland as Aqua, Jesse McCartney as... Totally blanking. As Ventus and Roxas, Quentin Flynn as Axel, Paul St. Peter as Xemnas, Richard Epcar as Ansem. Oh, that just reminds me. As far as performances go, Haley Joel Osment, who I said voices the main protagonist, Sora, he voices two characters in the series. The other one is Vanitas, a tertiary antagonist here and the secondary antagonist of Birth by Sleep. And I did not like his performance as Vanitas in this game. It's just, like, it seems like all he did to differentiate Vanitas from Sora in Birth by Sleep was deepen his voice a little. And here in Kingdom Hearts 3, he adds this growl to it, this sort of edge to it. And it's just, it sounded stupid. But since we're talking about performances, let's talk about the big ones. Because there were... Between the last games and this one, there were some massive changes. The first is Mickey. Mickey was originally voiced by Wayne Allwine, and after Allwine's passing, he was voiced by... I think it was Bill Iwan was his name. I forgot to look it up. I did look it up. I'm forgetting it now. And he does okay. There are a few moments where it feels like his voice drops. It feels like he's kind of struggling with the lines, but he does okay. It's just, I grew up with Wayne Allwine's Mickey Mouse. I really liked him, so this, in general, is an adjustment for me. The other one is the game's main antagonist, Master Xehanort. Now, and this is one that, from what I've seen, is kind of getting split reactions across the board. Now, when he first showed up in Birth by Sleep, Master Xehanort was voiced by Leonard Nimoy. And he was voiced by him again in Dream Drop Distance. And then between Dream Drop Distance and this game, Leonard Nimoy passed away. And everyone was talking about who was going to replace Leonard Nimoy. You know, I thought it was going to be Corey Burton, because he already did Yen Sid, the sorcerer from The Sorcerer's Apprentice. Which, by the way, Yen Sid is Disney spelled backwards. But I'm sure everyone got that. And Corey Burton also took over for Christopher Lee, voicing the character of Ansem the Wise. Yeah, Christopher Lee was in the Kingdom Hearts series for a little bit. Anyway, Master Xehanort. After Leonard Nimoy passed away, there was speculation about who was going to take over the role. And I kind of like what they did. Rather than just get someone who sounded similar, rather than get someone doing a Leonard Nimoy impression, they went the opposite direction and got someone completely different. And they chose Rutger Hauer. From Blade Runner, The Hitcher, Merlin. The miniseries was Sam Neill, not the British series. And I think I'm biased because I like the actor, but I liked Rutger Hauer as Master Xehanort. There were a few times where his lines felt like they didn't work, but overall, I thought he did as good a job as we were going to get, filling in for someone as iconic as Leonard Nimoy. And I think Rutger Hauer really didn't hit stride until the game's ending. I thought that was his best performance as far as this character is concerned. And yeah, I also found the game to be sort of lacking in side content. Like I said, there were a few mini-games here and there throughout the worlds. The biggest one being the Bistro. In Twilight Town, you could go to the Bistro and meet Remy from Ratatouille, and you could do these cooking mini-games to make meals. And then you could eat the meals to do temporary stat buffs. The 100 Acre Wood was really lacking, which is probably why I have so much trouble remembering it. Really, the 100 Acre Wood was just 3 varieties of the bust-a-move bubble popper type minigame. And that was it. And everyone's been talking about DLC, and it's been treated as this huge sort of looming... I do not have a metaphor for this. Every time DLC is brought up, it's brought up as something to be treated as a pariah. And it's just... Guys, this is the age of video games we live in. DLC is a thing that's going to happen. I'm just kind of there. I'm just kind of neutral on the DLC thing. So, in conclusion, Kingdom Hearts 3 is not the best in the series, but I don't think it's the worst. If I were to rank all the games, I'd probably put it somewhere in the middle, ranking towards the top. But as far as a rating goes, I'm going to give it a modest but respectable 7 out of 10, because I did enjoy the game in spite of its flaws. But those were just my thoughts. What were yours? Feel free to start a conversation in the comments. And then, like, comment, subscribe. Click the little bell next to subscribe to get notifications when I upload. In the description box below, you will find the link to my Twitter, where you can follow me and get updates on the channel. And this is the Sentinel, watching over Geekdom, and I'll see you guys next time.